Gukesh! Congratulations!
Yeah, it was my goal all along to play and win the world championship match.
Gukesh, doing you proud! Come on, stay calm and carry on!
Hello and welcome to Inside South Asia with me, Bhairavi, saying what a tremendous week it has been for Indian sports. Gukesh became the youngest challenger to the world title in chess following his prestigious triumph at the Candidates Chess Tournament. We profile the young man's rise. Also on the show tonight, Muizzu sweeping new powers after his party wins a supermajority in Parliament. What's the cost of doing business with Iran and how Bhutan is undertaking tiger conservation? Here's a quick look. Well, our top focus, the Maldives President Muizzu's party, the PNC, has won a supermajority in the latest parliamentary elections, leaving the opposition and his detractors fuming. The 45-year-old former mayor of Malé entered the presidential race only as a proxy for Abdullah Yamin, who had been barred by the courts from contesting. But soon he became the face of the elections. Muizzu wooed voters with his Out India campaign to curtail what he called India's outsized influence. So how does his latest win affect the India-Maldives relations, where both New Delhi and Beijing vie for influence? In results set to move the Maldives closer to China, pro-Beijing leader and President Muizzu's party secured a landslide win in the parliamentary elections on Monday. His People's National Congress secured more than two-thirds of the seats in the 93-member parliament. The vote, seen as a crucial litmus test for Muizzu's policies, gives him sweeping powers to assert his pro-China agenda, as well as controversial domestic policies such as building thousands of apartments on reclaimed land. It's a major achievement for a party who had only 8 seats in the previous parliament. Monday's elections gives the PNC and its coalition parties 75 seats, while the main opposition Maldives Democratic Party has dwindled to only 12 seats from the previously held majority of 65. Since taking office in November last year, Muizzu has pledged to end the country's India First policy, straining ties with New Delhi, and made notable pro-China policy changes as well as visits to China to meet President Xi Jinping. India was asked to move all its troops from the island nation earlier this year, while Muizzu said his government was keen on exploring partnerships under China's Belt and Road Initiative, including the expansion of the country's central airport and commercial port. World Bank data shows that Chinese firms have invested $1.37 billion in the Maldives in the last decade, making it the largest bilateral creditor. Controversial statements were also made by Muizzu's party leaders against Prime Minister Modi. Since the fallout, India, which is the mainstay of its tourism sector, has seen a 50% drop in footfall. Worried of its repercussions, Malé has even conducted road shows to promote tourism from India again. And despite Muizzu's own rhetoric, the Indian government has increased development aid to the Maldives. India has monitored these developments closely given the strategic importance of the island nation to the Indian Ocean region. Both Beijing and New Delhi vie for influence in the Indo-Pacific. The US, which aims to strengthen its ties with India and in the Indo-Pacific region, also said it was watching the elections closely. The US opened an embassy in Malé in 2023 to boost engagement and regional influence. There are concerns that Muizzu's ultra-nationalist rhetoric may not bode well for the island nation or the region. Muizzu made India out his poll plank while pledging to elevate ties with Beijing. His overwhelming majority could strain ties with India further, where historically India has maintained significant influence. Well, this week, Iran's President Ibrahim Raisi was in Pakistan for a 3-day tour. On the agenda were long-standing trade and terror-related issues. The two sides agreed to finalize a free trade agreement. But the elephant in the room was the Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline that has been stuck for over a decade under heavy sanctions from the US. And the latest visit has once again sparked warnings from America.
A seeming bonhomie all around as the president of neighbor Iran, Ibrahim Raisi, comes calling. Age-old bonds of religion and culture come into focus, an effort to return to old sanity along what used to be a border of peace. Missiles fired into each other's territory and border tensions that had hit a pitch just 3 months back are firmly set aside.
Today offers us an opportunity to jointly bolster the relationship between Iran and Pakistan and lay the foundations for prosperity and development along our borders.
The two sides signed 8 MOUs covering security matters, enhanced trade ties, creation of special economic zones, judicial support, cooperation in veterinary and animal health, and more. The tit-for-tat strikes between Iran and Pakistan in January this year were the outcome of the highest-profile cross-border intrusions in recent years. And they raised alarm over a wider instability in West Asia since the Israel-Hamas war erupted on the 7th of October. It's an issue Iran and Pakistan agreed to nip swiftly.
There are a number of common positions and stands between the two countries when it comes, for instance, to combating terrorism. Both countries are determined to fight against terrorism, to fight against organized crime, to fight against narcotics, and to fight against different forms and manifestations of insecurity, which endanger our two countries and at the same time the region.
But there can be no missing the divide that persists. Prominent among them is the India factor. At their joint press meet, whereas Sharif raised repeated calls for Iran to step in on the Kashmir issue, Raisi was prominently silent on it. The snub was apparent. Another elephant in the room, the Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline. Construction hasn't even started on the Pakistan side. The reason? Big pressure on Pakistan from the US not to trade or hobnob with Iran or face big economic sanctions. For Pakistan, there's US arm twisting on ties with Iran on one side, a hefty fine from Iran looming on the other, and big domestic energy shortages on the third. President Raisi moved from Pakistan to Sri Lanka, the first visit by an Iranian president to the island nation in 16 years. He inaugurated a $514 million hydropower project here, another relationship that the US will not be happy with. What it boils down to is this: the US is keeping close watch on Iran's actions in South Asia, and every ally is on the hot seat. Pakistan walks a difficult tightrope.
And well, on October 7, 2023, the Hamas took 260 people hostage in the biggest attack on Israel in its history. Among those taken hostage were also foreigners. As countries negotiate their release and the hostage crisis, one family in Nepal is praying for the return of their child after over 6 months. WION's correspondent in Kathmandu, Saloni Morocco, has the story.
The parents of 23-year-old Bipin Joshi host a gathering at their home in Kathmandu, a meeting to unite in prayer and hope that he will be released soon. Down the last 7 months, a helpless despair has grown and hope dims by the day.
I love my son more than my life, who I thought he would be my old age support. I beg of you to kindly bring my son back home safe and alive.
I request all the concerned, including Hamas, to release my son, my only son, to be safely returned as soon as possible.
Bipin was among some 240 people, men, women, young and old, abducted by Hamas terrorists from the kibbutz Alumim on the 7th of October. He was one of a group of Nepali farming students in Israel as part of an academic program. 10 of his batchmates were killed there and then. Bipin was taken hostage. Some 20 weeks it's been now since public protests like this one took off in Israel, calling for freeing of the hostages. The truce process itself has been mired in geopolitical egos and wrangling. The hostages made mere pawns in an ugly game.
He was dearly loved within his family. He means more than a brother to me. It has been over 7 months since the tragic incident unfolded. Despite reaching out to various Nepali authorities, we remain without any updates regarding his whereabouts. I urge the Nepali government and the international community to take action to secure his release.
For more than half a year, we've been tirelessly reaching out to various authorities. We've engaged with the Prime Minister, Foreign Minister, President, and even the Israel Embassy. While the feedback has been encouraging, there has been no tangible progress. Despite this, we persist in our daily meetings with officials, with hope and determination.
Parents, siblings, friends, acquaintances. A single missing loved one means dozens affected. When will this senseless nightmare end?
Desperately seeking a word from the Nepali authorities on the kin held hostage by the Hamas terrorists, the family met with the Prime Minister earlier and requested for their son's early release. Nepal government says that all the efforts are being made, but it's been over 7 months and the family has started to question Nepal government on their efforts and instead have now requested the international community to help them fight the release of their son from Hamas captivity. Saloni Murarka for WION World is one in Kathmandu, Nepal.
And while the spring season for the Mount Everest has been delayed due to ice meltings and other weather and landscape-related dangers, this comes even as the government in Nepal set new rules for climbing permits to avoid overcrowding and pollution. Here's a look at how authorities are gearing up for this year's busy season. Take a look.
These are pictures of the Khumbu icefall taken in 2014 below the world's tallest peak, Mount Everest. A deadly avalanche back then had killed 16 Nepali mountaineering guides. 10 years later, crumbling ice in the Khumbu glacier has caused a delay to the 2024 spring climbing season. Riddled with crevices, precarious ice towers and several obstacles, this area has seen frequent tragedies. Like many glaciers worldwide, the Khumbu glacier has been experiencing the effects of global warming. Rising temperatures and changing climate patterns have accelerated the melting of the glacier, and many mountaineers are worried. Every year, a team of specialized workers called the Icefall Doctors crave out a route through the shifting glacier by fixing ropes on frozen cliffs and laying ladders across deep pits. Nobody can advance from base camp until this path is established. This season, a cavalcade of dangers slowed the Icefall Doctors. leading to a major delay in opening the icefall. The climb on the south side of Everest should have started at the most by the first week of April, but the route through the icefall couldn't get ready on time. However, reports have started coming in that the icefall is open, but climbers are advised to hurry through it. One mountaineer from Russia shared this post on social media. Unfortunately, the Khumbu icefall has not yet been roped and Camp 1 has not been established. I am looking for acclimatization options on neighboring peaks. My overnight stay is below the Labuche peak at an altitude of 6,000 meters. This week also marks the 9th anniversary of the 2015 Nepal earthquake that killed nearly 9,000 people. Tremors from a 7.8 magnitude quake triggered an avalanche from Pomori into base camp on Mount Everest that killed at least 22 people. Ever since Sir Edmund Hillary and Sherpa Tenzing Norgay reached Mount Everest's peak in 1953, more than 11,000 expeditions have reached the top of the world. .330 people have lost their lives in the effort, either on their way to the peak or on the return route. That, however, takes nothing away from the rush of mountaineers here, all eager to make a mark.
And well, Domaraju Gukesh is the name that has been etched into the history books of chess this week. The 17-year-old Indian became the youngest player to win the FIDE Candidates Tournament and will now challenge China's Ding Liren for the World Championship title. But how has Gukesh gone from a prodigy to a world beater before even being eligible to vote? We trace his journey in this report.
This is a huge achievement, and overall I think something like this happens once in a generation.
Once in a generation, quite literally. Just look at these scenes. This is not for Virat Kohli, Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi. This is a teenage chess player being mobbed by fans in Toronto after a seminal triumph. Gukesh is only the second Indian after the